My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC 295 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. But before I do, let's talk about the chaos that was the last 24 hours for UFC Sao Paulo. Within 24 hours of that event, they lost 3 fights. 2 fights were dropped on the scale. Armen Petrosyan said he was poisoned backstage. Literally said he was poisoned. His team released a statement. His manager released a statement saying he was poisoned. So he didn't make the walk, obviously, and that Rodolfo Vieira fight was canceled. What's frustrating about this is people buy tickets. They go in person. We look forward to these events. We schedule our days around them, and then fights drop. Obviously, the UFC can't control poisoning. How could they possibly control that? But what they can control are the weight issues. I know the UFC tries to do things. If you don't know, they have people that literally check weight throughout the week. They have people like come downstairs, mandatory weight check. We want to see where you are. We want to see how far you are, if you're going to miss, if there's going to be issues. But that doesn't seem to be working. The 30% or 20% fight purse fine doesn't seem to be working. To lose 2 fights in one event, there was multiple weight misses, but only 2 fights actually got dropped, is a problem. I think there needs to be some very real consequences worked into their contract. You can't necessarily just cut a fighter, because there might be fighters that want out of their contract, don't miss weight on purpose, and then be free and clear. You got to figure something out, maybe literally no money or a massive fine. The NFL has massive fines for celebrations and things like that. Maybe the UFC has to do a massive fine. Not only do you not get paid at all and don't fight, but you also have to give the UFC $50,000. And that money is divided up against everybody who did make weight. There's got to be a way to fix this. Let me know in the comments if you have an idea, but this is becoming an actual problem. This isn't COVID. When fights were dropping left and right during COVID, it is what it is. This is not COVID. Ismael Bonfim, bum, minimum requirement. Show up, make weight. Same thing in it's annoying. Let me know if you have a solution. I don't, but certainly hit their pockets and maybe they'll figure out how to make weight. But you know who isn't canceled? You know who has made weight? Actually, I've been gaining weight pretty steadily. You know who has made weight? Us. So celebrate us. Say thank you, guys, for all the content. Do us a favor. It costs you absolutely nothing to follow our socials. Liking this video is 100% free. Our Discord is 100% free. I'm about to pitch premium for $10 a month. Discord is in that, but it's also free. You can join the Discord for free. You can interact with the community for free. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, our other YouTube channel, Picks Nation. We live stream to Kick, Twitch, and this is audio only on all of the podcast platforms as well. Follow the things. It costs you literally $0 to do that, and we would genuinely appreciate it. Here's your premium pitch. If you don't know, we have a premium offering. It's only $10 a month. Go to wewantpicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. You're going to unlock so much stuff, right? All throughout the week, you're going to see other people, cappers. Oh, join my Patreon. It's $28 and here's 4 bets. Or please join my Patreon. I'm going to give all my bets away for free, but join the Patreon so you can get them a day earlier. Like, you're going to hear all sorts of weird pitches. But our pitch, by far the best. This is the most robust premium offering in this space, because not only are you going to get picks and bets, but you're also going to get tools, data, and insight. One of those tools is the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every single fighter on every single card. This card specifically, 0 fighters went from an underdog to a favorite. That is abnormal. Pretty much every single event, we have at least 1 fighter that opened as a dog and that line got hammered, they became a favorite. Not on this card. We have had some movement. 7 different fighters have had 20% movement in their line. Nazim Sadykhov is one of those guys. This guy opened as a minus 350 favorite, has been bet all the way down to minus 155. It is Sunday. There's going to be more movement today. Lots of movement on Tuesdays when props drop. So we're going to follow this throughout the week. You unlock this tool with premium membership. You also get detailed data, metrics, and analytics with premium membership. This is 38 columns of data that you can work your way across. Figure out how many average takedowns a fighter has, their strike averages per minute, their takedown defense. When all of those takedowns and striking props drop, you can align those. You get the last 5. I mean, it's 38 columns of detailed data and metrics and analytics for every single fighter on the card so that you can work your way through, find spots, avoid spots, and make more educated bets. You're also going to get the DraftKings lineup optimizer. This will literally build lineups for you. If you don't know what DraftKings Fantasy is, you essentially have a budget. Think fantasy football. You have a budget, you draft some fighters, you then take that lineup of fighters and you compete against the world. We have an entire community of people doing this. Under the We Want Picks banner, we have over almost $400,000 worth of winnings from DraftKings Fantasy, and a lot of that has come from the optimizer. And you're going to see some other optimizers out there in the world, but the most important thing is the data inside of it. It's a fancy calculator. So if you have trash data, it's going to be calculating and building lineups off of trash data. Lucky for us, we have the best data in the industry. If you go look at these large companies like Roto Grinders and Awesemo, they can't compete. Their numbers are in here, and you can see we had the lowest margin of error in the entire industry at 4.46%. And that matters very much because when you're competing against 20,000, 30,000, 10,000, 5,000, when you're competing against the world, a single percentage point matters very, very much. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. You unlock all of this and more. It's not just me. I'm the face of this whole operation. We got Jacob doing his thing, but then we also have other analysts on premium. When you become a premium member, you log in, click on analysts in the menu. There's a whole list of other people. We have Artem breaking down far more than just UFC. You're going to get PFL, Bellator, LFA. We have the Pick Doctor. This is literally a neural physicist, a nuclear physicist who has built an AI that picks fights based solely off of data. You're also going to get the MMA Minute. He is our newest addition. He's got 30,000 followers on TikTok. He's breaking down fights, giving you picks, bets, round line leans, props, all of that. And you're going to get Running Mouth MMA. Running Mouth MMA is 3 different people. You're going to get all of their picks, all of their bets, all of their insight. They are also going to be at Madison Square Garden for UFC 295. So if you see them, say hi. So will Dave. If you see Dave, say hi, Dave, and buy Dave a beer. And I get it. A beer at Madison Square Garden might be $20, might be $25. When I went to UFC 285, I think it was, I forget which one, in Vegas, beers were like, it was not a reasonable number. But if you see Dave, say hi, buy him a beer, let me know. I'll take care of the beer for you. I'll throw you some premium membership, something like that. Hello, Dave. Welcome to UFC 295. Let's go ahead and break down this card. Typically, pay-per-views are pretty straightforward. And even if there's a couple of landmines on a card, you're at least going to get a handful of fights that you're positive are going to go one direction or another. Not this card. This card is loaded with minus 155 favorites that could all get smoked. So let's be careful. Let's break down this card and let's see if we can find our spots. Opening up UFC 295 is Pizza Boy Steve Erceg taking on Alessandro Costa. And this is going to be an interesting fight because Steve Erceg, I made the joke, Pizza Boy, he does not look the part. He literally looks like he's going to deliver your pizzas, be as scrawny as Jacob. Hello, head down, walk away looking at his feet. But he's actually a good fighter. He's a slick grappler. He's going to attack very quickly. He's going to snatch things up in scrambles. Striking is not great, but he does have really nice calf kicks, and he showcased those in his UFC debut. He's got a really wide stance, some limited head movement. He does have a nice jab that he pumps out there while marching forward. Striking's not great, but he throws with volume, he throws with consistency, and he's always moving forward. His grappling is impressive, though. He moves very fluidly. He seizes opportunities. He's coming off that short notice UFC debut win over David Dvorak, where he had 3 takedowns and 142 strikes. Alessandro Costa is his opponent, and it's not an easy go for his second fight in the UFC because this guy's a solid striker, pretty good takedown defense. His striking file is like a high, tight guard. He is patient, though. He will wait. He will find his spots. When he decides to throw, he will throw with 100% intent. And he does a really nice job of using small combinations. Not like 30 punch, but like good 3-4 punch combinations and then working his way out. He's going to leap in with a left to the body, a right to the head, circle, work that again. He's got very, very real power, but he can be low volume. He's coming off that second round knockout win over Jimmy Flick, which, great knockout win, but I said Jimmy Flick. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I like Costa. A lot of people are very high on Steve Erceg. He definitely was impressive in his UFC debut, but I think Costa's striking is just good enough to get it done. Costa is low volume. Erceg is very high volume. That clash could spoil my pick here. But Erceg just seems way too hittable. Alessandro Costa has some very real power. He's going to have that tight guard. He's going to throw combinations. I'm not going to bet on this fight just yet. I might come to my senses later in the week and flip the pick or drop in a prop bet or two. But for now, I'm going to go with the underdog. I think the power is going to be the difference. I think the striking skill is going to be on Costa's side. So he's going to be the pick here, but low confidence to get this card started. Then we have a Kang taking on John Sexy Mexi Castaneda. And John Castaneda, if you haven't seen him fight, this guy is a ton of fun. He's going to come forward, tons of energy, never stop, incredible pace. He's a very well-rounded guy. That pace will break a lot of people. He's a former Division II wrestler who loves coming forward with fast hands and then shooting takedowns when he has the openings. He doesn't have a ton of power, but he makes up for that with forward pressure with a wide variety of strikes as well. He's coming off that decision win over Muin Gufarov. Another Jacob failed lock of the week, but Muin Gufarov, where his volume wasn't there, but the wrestling was. He defended 6 takedowns, and he had 3 of his own. He's taking on Kang. This guy's well-rounded overall. He uses range to keep you at distance before he's going to tighten it up and then work in some takedowns. He averages about 2 takedowns per fight, and once he gets you to the ground, he's got really heavy top pressure and solid submissions. He's a low-volume striker, but he does have very good power. He's coming off that submission win over Christian Quinones, where his power was on display. Kang is a dangerous guy. He does a really good job of managing that striking distance, but I think Castaneda is going to get in his face, break him down, work in the takedowns, and then ride out a decision win. I do think this is going to be a decision. We'll see what that 2.5 round line looks like when that drops, but for now, John Castaneda is going to be the pick, and I'm very confident in that. Then we have a heartbreaker. I know Jacob stays up at night struggling. Like, what do I do with this fight? I mean, look at these women. Look at the things he said about these women. I don't know what Jacob's going to do here, but I know what I'm going to do here. We have Tabatha Ricci taking on Lupita Godinez. This is a grappler's delight. Both of these women are aggressive grapplers, but very, very different. Tabatha Ricci is a jiu-jitsu grappler. She's going to come forward. She likes to work in the takedowns. She will settle into positions once she gets the takedown and then look for a submission. She's very heavy on top. She's got good pressure and good control. She will ground and pound on top, and that's going to create a scramble, and then she'll take your back. She'll look to snatch something up. She has looked unbeatable in the UFC outside of her UFC debut, which was short notice, a weight class above, and against Manon Fiorot. She's coming off the one-sided win over Jillian Robertson, where a lot of people were, I don't know how, but surprised that Tabatha Ricci was the better grappler in that matchup. Tabatha Ricci is a very, very good grappler. Not a great striker, though. You can see the negative striking differential. She is going to be busy. She is going to come forward, but the skills just aren't there. She's taking on Lupita Godinez. And I'm going to use the word big. I mean, she's 5'2". That's all relative. But Lupita Godinez is a big, strong wrestler for this weight class. She does have solid, clean striking as well. She has great setups for both that striking and the wrestling. She's big here. And she uses that size and that strength really well to execute a bully-style game plan. She's got all the talent in the world. She can genuinely beat 90% of this division if she fights to her potential. The problem is she doesn't always fight to her potential. She can be a little bit unreliable at times. But since moving to the Alexa Grasso fight camp, she has been far more consistent, and she has looked absolutely incredible. She's coming off the destruction of Elise Reed. We got a big social media presence here, right? We're going to get 20,000 followers on YouTube, hopefully, before the end of the year. Good amount of people on Instagram, some on TikTok and Twitter as well. We get a lot of DMs. Every week we get a ton of DMs about different things. Good stuff, bad stuff, all the stuff. And in the last 2 weeks, for whatever reason, I've gotten a handful of messages about this fight specifically, talking about Ricci is great underdog money. Guys, Ricci's great underdog money. You should hit this up. Now, I don't know if people think that it's Jacob maybe running the socials and that's why they're doing that, to virtue signal to Jakey boy, but it's not. It's me. And the reality is I don't see it. I think Lupita Godinez wins this fight. Yes, Tabatha Ricci is a good grappler. Yes, Tabatha Ricci has looked phenomenal at this weight class in her last couple of fights. but her striking is atrocious. Her takedowns are just okay. And we have Lupita Godinez, who is a very, very good wrestler, training with literally some of the best women on planet Earth. I think Lupita comes forward, gets her own takedowns, or at least defends the Tabatha Ricci takedowns, and then lights her up on her feet. Lupita Godinez is going to be the pick here. I'm like pretty confident, not insanely confident. You're not going to see her in my safety parlay, but I do think Lupita Godinez is going to get this done. Tabatha Ricci is very, very good, but if she's stuck in a striking match with anybody competent, she's not going to win. If she can't get you to the ground, she's not going to win. She's going to be fighting the much better wrestler, and I think she's going to struggle with that. So Lupita Godinez is the pick. Then we have Nazim Sadykhov taking on Viacheslav Borshchev. I mentioned in the premium membership promo that Nazim Sadykhov had 21% line movement, meaning he opened at a minus 350 favorite. He was bet all the way down. He's now in the ones. He's still a favorite, but a very slight favorite. And I get the line movement, and I'll tell you why. But before I do me a favor. Go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's only $10 a month. You're going to unlock more than you will ever find in anybody else's premium offering, including the giant companies. Support a small business. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. We got Nazim Sadykhov. He's taking on Viacheslav Borshchev. I have broken this guy down for years, and I can never say his name without doing the Russian accent. Anyway, Nazim Sadykhov. This guy's a solid kickboxer. He's got some speed. He's got some power. He's not reckless. He does take his time on his feet. He likes to find his openings. He likes to plot forward, counter-strike at the exact same time. He is patient. He occasionally can be a little low volume, but he also, for a patient, stalky style striker, he's also going to work in a spinning attack for no reason. I've mentioned this before, but his one and only professional loss was because he did some spinning nonsense, and that led to his demise. He is coming off the submission win over Terrence McKinney, where he got worked early, but he weathered that storm, came out, got it done the second round. He's taking on Viacheslav Borshchev. This guy's a fantastic striker. He has a legitimate professional kickboxing career before he transitioned to MMA. He's got a great jab, solid power, fantastic kicks. Ultimately, everyone is well aware of how good of a striker he is, so they try to take him down. He does have a low 35% takedown defense. He has been taken down 24 times in 5 UFC fights, but he is coming off the absolute destruction of Mahashete, where he dropped him 3 times before eventually getting that knockout. And this is an interesting breakdown because Nazim is sitting at a minus 155 favorite. I mentioned he opened at minus 350. If you don't know betting odds, what that means is you would have to bet $350 on him to win 100, basically 3-1 favorite. That has tightened quite a bit. He is now less than a 2-1 favorite. And I'm not insanely surprised. I'm surprised that he's a minus 155 favorite. But I'm not surprised that line collapsed because, yeah, Nazim's going to be the more well-rounded fighter in this matchup. And yes, he did just win by submission. So if you're just lazy and you look at Tapology, oh, submission, you move on. That's not the way to do it because he's not a grappler, which means he's going to end up in a striking match with Viacheslav Borshchev, who's an absolute killer. If Nazim cannot get this to the ground, he's going to have a miserable night. And even if he can get it to the ground, Slava Claus over here has proven that he does an amazing job working his way back up to his feet, throwing, making stuff happen. The reason he got taken down 24 times is because he stood up 23 times. And every time he is on his feet, every time he is back there, he's ready to go, and you could be in some very real trouble. I like Viacheslav to win this fight. I think he could defend the takedowns. I think he can let his hands go. I think he can make something happen. Obviously, Nazim could squeak out a wet blanket decision win, but I'm going to go with Slava Claus here, and I'm going to trust the absolute non-stop striking pressure to make something happen here. So Viacheslav Borshchev is going to be the pick, but obviously somebody as one-dimensional as him, the blueprint is there on how to beat him. Then we have Dennis Buzukja, wild last name, love it, taking on Jamall Emmers. This is going to be another very interesting fight and another minus 155 favorite style fight that can go in any direction. Dennis Buzukja coming out of that same gym as Matt Frevola, Marab, Aljo, all those other guys, the Longo Serra fight gym. He's a come-forward wrestler. He's got striking and he has guts. He is very tough, good striking technique, very good power, and then really aggressive takedowns to sort of round him out. He's basically Matt Frevola. He fights very similarly to Matt Frevola, but he's a little more athletic and he has some cleaner striking. He's coming off that loss in his UFC debut, but that was short notice, and he did come out hot. He threw big, but he ended up slowing down. He did struggle with the takedowns in that fight, but that's not a reflection of his wrestling skills. If you leave that fight and you go look at some other ones, he's got some very solid wrestling. He struggled with the takedowns because he was fighting Sean Woodson, who's 11 feet tall, and his legs are like this. So getting your arms around that's not the easiest thing to do. He's taking on Jamall Emmers. This guy's a very good striker, but he's actually a wrestler in discipline. You're going to watch his fights, you can say, wow, good, clean striking. That's impressive. But he's got very, very good wrestling in his back pocket. He only has a 50% takedown accuracy, but his defense, however, sits at a very solid 90%. He's only 2-4 in the UFC, but his loss to Giga Chikadze was a close fight. His loss to Pat Sabatini, that was a flash submission after he absolutely dropped Pat early. And his most recent loss to Jack Jenkins was a robbery. Everyone said, oh, this is a robbery. No. This was one of the biggest robberies we've seen in a very long time. And to put that in perspective for you, some idiot's going to comment, casual, that wasn't. To put it in perspective for you, how big of a robbery it was, at the end of the third round, the fight's over. Jamall Emmers was a minus 1,700 favorite to win that fight. Meaning, these sports books and everybody else who watched that fight said, you're going to have to bet $1,700 and I'll give you $100 back. That's how much of a lock they thought Jamall Emmers was, and he still didn't get the decision. Judges hate this guy. I don't know why. And that makes this a tough fight to call. Honestly, that is factored into this breakdown, straight up. If he was getting the decisions he was supposed to get, it'd be a little different. But that factors into this breakdown because, yes, Denis Buzukja is a very solid guy. He showcased some very real skills in that UFC debut. I can only imagine how good he's going to look like with a full camp at home, right? He's from New York. But this is going to be interesting because Jamall Emmers is very good. He does seem to have a little bit of bad luck here, but this fight's going to come entirely down to if Denis can get the wrestling going and keep that pace. I am fighting every urge I have to not pick Denis. I really want to pick him here. I'm working against myself. I'm going against my gut. I'm going to slight lean Jamall Emmers because even though Denis does have a lot of potential, he's not very dangerous. He's not a finisher. Jamall Emmers is a finisher. He is dangerous. He does have some very real power. I'm probably going to avoid the bets here because Jamall's luck is not great. Anything could happen with this guy. We'll see what happens on Friday when the takedown prop bets drop because I think Denis Buzukja can get this to the ground at least once. Because what he did show in that Sean Woodson fight is he is aggressive with the takedown. So if we get a 3 takedown line, I'm doing the under. If we get a half a takedown line, I'm going to do the over. I think Denis Buzukja ends up with 1 takedown. And if there's some value picking a side on that, then that's what I'm going to do. If you're not a premium member, become one. Go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. Once you become a member, click on your account tab and link your Discord. Our Discord is 100% free. Go ahead and join the conversation. But once you have your Discord, link it to premium membership, and you will get alerts to your phone when we place bets. That is very important on Tuesdays and Fridays when props drop because the prop lines absolutely soar. So you want to get that alert, and if you look at it and you're like, that's a bad bet, leave it alone. Of course, leave it alone. But if you look at it and it's a solid bet, hit it before that line takes off. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. Jamall Emmers is the pick here. Insanely low confidence. The bet at the end of the day might be on the Buzukja takedown lines. Then we have Jared Gordon taking on Mark O for Olympian Madsen. And listen, I could only dream of being an Olympic wrestler, but it has become his entire personality. Anyway, we got Jared Gordon. He's a good wrestler himself. He's got solid pressure, good volume in his striking. He does like to come forward. He'll throw flurries before looking for a takedown. He averages more than 2 takedowns per fight, but he can be out-grappled like he was against Grant Dawson and Joe Selecki. He's coming off that no contest to Bobby Green, but he actually looked very good early. You could argue he was winning those striking exchanges with somebody that we think is a very good striker, and then there was a headbutt. He was knocked out. But thank God for instant replay. They looked at it, they saw the headbutt, and they said this is going to be a no contest. He's taking on Mark O. Madsen. He is an Olympic Greco wrestler. Despite his high-level wrestling credentials, his takedown accuracy is at 66%. That's medium, right? It's not amazing. It's not terrible. But his takedown defense is at 62%, and I would expect that to be much higher for an Olympian. You could argue his striking is not very good, but he has shown over his last few fights that he can hang with some of these people. He does have a negative striking differential, but a solid chin and some real power. He's coming off his first ever career loss to Grant Dawson who managed to out-wrestle him and control him pretty easily on the ground. And when I saw this matchup, my instant gut reaction immediately was, oh, I'm going to pick the Olympic wrestler. I'm going with Mark. He's an Olympian. I tend to favor wrestlers. I mean, that really gets my juices flowing. But then I slowed down. I looked a little bit closer, and I decided I actually think Jared's going to win this fight because the reality is his striking should be far better. And while the wrestling credentials aren't going to stack up, he should have enough cardio to potentially give maybe 1 or 2 takedowns up early and then rally later to kind of steal a fight. Mark is pushing 40. He's very one-dimensional. He's coming off his first loss. Jared is fighting in New York, training with wrestlers, training with that gym with half the other card. I think he could potentially get the nod here. I would argue that every single one of these minus 155, minus 160 favorites are going to lose. This is another situation where that could happen, but I am going to lean Jared Gordon here, and I think he could sneak something out and get it done. I wish the age gap was a little different, honestly. I wish Jared Gordon was like 28, full of piss and vinegar coming forward, but it's going to be an interesting fight, and maybe as the week goes on and we watch the embeddeds and we see the weigh-ins, maybe something will change, but Mark's cardio is not phenomenal. Jared's cardio, for the most part, is pretty good. And honestly, I've been saying this for years. The way you beat a wrestler is you out-wrestle a wrestler. It is much easier to finish a bad takedown than it is to defend a good one. So instead of waiting for Mark to come forward, clinch you up, take you down, shoot a takedown. Grant Dawson did it. And I think he said, like, if you remember Grant Dawson's win over Mark Madsen, he was literally crying, proud. I can't believe I beat an Olympic wrestler. I was barely good in middle school. And it was a powerful speech and good for him. And it tells you implement your own game plan, push your own initiatives, your own agenda in that fight. Don't just sit back and wait. And Jared Gordon could have success doing that. He's training with killer wrestlers every single day. Then we have Joshua Van taking on Kevin Borjas. Another interesting fight. Is this a pay-per-view caliber fight? No. But it is an interesting fight. We got Joshua Van. This guy is only 22 years old. He is walking into his second UFC fight after a win in his debut. Style-wise, he's a solid striker. He's got aggression, a little bit of power. His takedown and scramble skills are good as well. He is the new generation of fighter. So even though you're probably going to categorize him as a striker, he's good everywhere. He can grapple as well. He's got takedowns, jiu-jitsu, all the things. He does a nice job looking for stuff in scrambles and making his opponents work. He is coming off a short notice win over Zalgas Zumagulov, where he showcased his striking, his chin, and his cardio. He's taking on Kevin Borjas, UFC debut here. This guy's a clean striker as well. He's going to work in combinations. He's going to use everything from straight strikes to low leg kicks, all while plodding forward. He can grapple if he needs to, but more often than not, he's actually going to let people stand up and avoid the ground completely. So if you end up in a situation where he ends up on top or you trip, whatever it is, he's going to back away and say, get up, I want to strike with you. And for the most part, he is a striker. Very nice combinations, mid-level takedown defense. He's coming off a Contender Series win last month and making his official UFC debut. I really like Kevin striking, but Josh showed us how patient he can be and how solid his cardio is. I think Josh can stay patient, avoid the combinations, work in his own takedowns. Kevin's going to be the better striker here, in my opinion, but Josh is going to be the way better grappler, the more well-rounded guy. Josh has, honestly, in that UFC debut, he looked great. That was a great fight for a UFC debut guy as young as he is. So Josh is going to be the pick here. I'm going to avoid betting, especially at the 2-1 odds. And if Denise Gomes showed us anything at UFC Sao Paulo, these super young fighters just sometimes don't have the fight IQ, we'll say it nicely, the fight IQ to work their way through some of these situations. The difference, though, is Denise Gomes fought a tried and true veteran. Joshua Van's also fighting a young guy who's probably lacking some fight IQ. Then we have Matt Frevola taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. This is, like, low-key one of the best fights on this entire card. Both of these guys are absolute savages who will continue to come forward no matter what. Matt Frevola, really tough wrestler. He never stops moving forward. He doesn't have the most technical striking, but that doesn't stop him from charging forward and throwing big, looping, bombing shots. In some cases, even some sloppy back fist. He averages almost 3 takedowns per fight. He does have a low 36% accuracy, though. He's got 12 takedowns in 9 fights, but he hasn't needed any in his last 5. He's coming off that massive underdog win over Drew Dober, where he cracked the code of that wild chin. He's taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. This guy's a good wrestler in his own right. He's got really well-timed shots and a ton of pressure on top. He's got good old-fashioned, lower your level, shoot a takedown type style wrestling, and that is effective for him. He's got 5 fights in the UFC with 13 takedowns, and that's incredible considering he has only ever seen the third round one time. When he gets it to the ground, he's got good pressure. He works through submissions. He's got a ton of power in his feet. He brings that to the ground with him as well, but he is hittable. He's coming off the destruction of Thiago Moises, where he had 5 takedowns and 4 times the amount of significant strikes landed. It was like 25 to 100. It was crazy. This, as I mentioned, is a very good fight, a sneaky good fight. Both of these guys have solid wrestling, powerful hands, and a ton of pressure. I don't even know who I would give the edge to in each individual category. Maybe the wrestling for Benoit? I don't know. The striking for Frevola? Both of these, they're very similarly built, and that's why this is a tough fight. It honestly should be a pick'em, but it's not. Benoit's a decent-sized favorite. Matt's a dog, again, and I think he can win this fight. He's got 3 losses in the UFC, but one was to Terrence McKinney, who we know is amazing. The other one was to Arman Sarukian, who honestly could be champion at one point or another. I think the confidence that Matt Frevola has, riding his nice little win streak there, fighting in New York, I think that's going to be enough for him to sneak out a win. My only real concern here is the mental fortitude of Benoit Saint-Denis. Famously, he was like a former French special forces guy, but what I don't understand, and somebody educate me on it, he's 27 years old. How the hell was he in the military, special for all the things, and then retired and pursued a full MMA career by 27? Obviously, he wasn't injured. I don't know what it was. So let me know. I am curious. Was he kicked out? I don't know what it was. But anyway, this is a great fight. Matt Frevola is going to be the pick, and I'm keeping an eye on the line movement tracker. If he continues to become a bigger and bigger dog, I'm going to throw money on him. So I'm watching that. I'm watching the trend. And as soon as I think it's peaked, I'm going to throw money on that money line because I think Matt Frevola can get it done. And I think he's proven to us that he can beat anybody on any day. So has Benoit, which makes this so tricky. But if you're not a premium member, become one. It's $10 a month. You could also have access to that line movement tracker. Then we got a couple of jiu-jitsu nerds. We got Pat Sabatini taking on Diego Lopes. Pat Sabatini is a grappler and a very good grappler. He's got solid wrestling, solid pressure when he's on top. His grappling is incredible. He's always live for a submission. He's got some technical striking as well, but he is stiff, hittable, and probably chinny. He's got 4 takedowns per fight on average, but he is landing fewer than 2 significant strikes per minute. Coming off that bounce-back submission win over Lucas Alexander. Pat Sabatini went from Jacob's favorite fighter to, their striking's not improving at that gym. But I do think Pat Sabatini is very, very good. I think his striking is a lot better than people give him credit for. And don't forget, he is a local guy to the region, and that may factor into this fight. He's taking on Diego Lopes. This guy's a dangerous grappler, very, very dangerous grappler, who's actually coaching some of the better fighters out of Mexico. While he doesn't have the best takedowns or takedown defense, his BJJ is very dangerous. He's a well-rounded guy, but he likes to throw heavy power shots and chase finishes when he's on his feet. His striking can get wild when he's chasing those finishes, but he keeps things in combinations, and then he likes to methodically work forward until he's somehow on the ground. Once he's on the ground, he's dangerous, incredibly dangerous. He's got some very slick jiu-jitsu. He can catch you in anything at any time. We just saw that with the submission win over Gavin Tucker, where he was yet again taken down very easily, but he managed to pull off the submission. And I'm clowning a little bit for that takedown defense because it's almost non-existent, but he doesn't care. He's so good at jiu-jitsu. Go ahead, take me down. What do I care? It's almost like Joel Alvarez minus the very good striking. He's not quite a BJJ nerd, though. I mentioned BJJ. He's not quite a BJJ nerd. He doesn't fully pull guard, but he might as well. He doesn't defend the takedowns. His takedown offense doesn't really exist. Takedown defense, go ahead. You can have it. I think he's grossly overrated. I think he gets far too much credit for not getting stopped by Movsar Evloev on short notice. With that being said, before you hate in the comments, with that being said, I fully recognize how insanely good his jiu-jitsu is. I get it. But there's not a ton of striking. There's not really any offensive takedowns. Just very, very good jiu-jitsu. I think Pat Sabatini is going to win this fight, and I'm somewhat confident in that. I have medium as my official confidence level. But Diego Lopes is probably not going to knock out or outstrike Pat Sabatini. Diego Lopes is not going to submit another very high-level grappler in Pat Sabatini. And Pat Sabatini has very good takedowns. This is going to look like the Movsar Evloev fight. Pat Sabatini is going to come forward, get the takedowns, and then have all the control in the world on top because Diego Lopez's tricks aren't going to work on the ground. Pat Sabatini should absolutely win this fight. I don't have a bet just yet. The chin worries me a little bit, but I'm going to bet on him at some point. I do think Pat Sabatini wins this fight. I am a known, I don't want to say Diego Lopes hater. I don't hate the guy. What do I care? But I just think he had a short notice UFC debut against Movsar Evloev. He was like Movsar was a minus 900 favorite or something like that in that fight. And Diego did not get finished. And he had a couple of submission attempts in the mix. And people were like, this guy's so good. He's amazing. And then, yes, he just beat Gavin Tucker, but that was Gavin's fault. I just think he's getting a little too much credit, unproven at the moment. I'm going to go with Pat Sabatini here, who we know for a fact has very good takedowns, very high-level BJJ. So in order for Pat to lose this fight, you need Diego Lopes to knock him out or to submit him. I don't see either one of those things happening. Then we have a very interesting featured fight. We have Jessica Andrade taking on Mackenzie Dern. This is interesting because Jessica Andrade is back at strawweight. She's come down, fighting at an appropriate weight class here, and she's a bully. She's a beast. Yes, she is on a 3-fight skid, but don't let that fool you. She's a former world champion. She's a contender at multiple weight classes. She has beaten some of the best women on planet Earth technique-wise. She's a decent striker, but she's got a ton of power, and that power is everywhere. It's in her hands. She can push you around. She'll pick you up. She will physically impose her will, and despite almost always being the smaller fighter, you can see it here, 5'1" to 5'4", 62 inches to 6. She's always a smaller fighter, no matter what weight class she's fighting in. She's almost always the more physically imposing fighter as well. Her BJJ is not the best. Her takedowns aren't technical, neither is her takedown defense. But she will force fights to the ground, start pounding away. She will hold you against the cage, pound away. She will stand in the middle and start swinging wild. Jessica is a bully, and she can break a lot of people. Problem is, if she can't bully you, well, then she's got nothing to offer. She's taking on Mackenzie Dern. She's an amazing grappler. Traditionally, she was trouble for anybody that couldn't defend a subpar. Her takedowns suck. A subpar takedown. But lately, we have seen how good her striking can be. She had a negative striking differential forever. And that just flipped in her last fight. She beat Angela Hill so badly that she had a negative striking differential that flipped positive in one single fight. She does have an atrocious 15% takedown accuracy, which is insane considering how good her jiu-jitsu is. You would think that she'd be all in on the wrestling in her camps. Seems to be all in on the striking, and that is improving, but she's got to improve the takedowns as well. Because if all of a sudden she is in this fight and Jessica Andrade is lighting her up on her feet and she's shooting takedowns from a mile away, it's just not going to work for her. And anytime Mackenzie Dern fights, my gut reaction is, she's a grappling beast. Can she get it to the ground? And then 2 seconds later, I'm like, probably not. Her takedowns absolutely suck. The good news is her striking has improved, though, quite a bit. The striking she showcased in that Angela Hill fight was very, very impressive. The bad news, though, is that the takedowns still absolutely suck. Jessica is strong as hell. She might be able to bully forward, push Mackenzie around a little bit, especially at 115 pounds, but I'm going Mackenzie here. I'm actually very confident in her. Jessica has shown us that her takedown defense, not great. She's shown us her striking has become all power overhands on repeat. Mackenzie has shown us that she has no problem being a full BJJ nerd. She will pull guard. She will climb your body. And she has no quit in her whatsoever. So I can trust Mackenzie Dern to take a beating if she has to and then still be in this fight, still try to get it to the ground, still try to make something happen. Her technical striking looked fantastic. Her jiu-jitsu is fantastic. The wrestling needs wild amounts of improvement. I'm going to trust Mackenzie Dern here. I think she gets it done. I threw a full unit on her at minus 177. I am curious to see what happens with the rest of that line to see if that's going to tighten or widen. But either way, pretty confident in Mackenzie Dern early in the week. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. As we know, this was supposed to be headlined by John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. John Jones, his pec muscle ripped off the bone or something insane like that. Sergey Pavlovich was always on this card. He was the backup for that fight. which I don't even know why, because as soon as one person in that fight dropped, they scrapped the whole thing. So we got Sergey Pavlovich taking on Tom Aspinall, and this is for the interim heavyweight championship belt. And this is a really tough fight to pick. The line is literally -110. Dead even line, and it has been for about a week. Sergey Pavlovich is an absolute beast of a striker, mostly a boxer. You're not going to see a ton of kicks out of him, but he has insane power and incredible hand speed for a heavyweight. His striking volume is impressive. He does trust his own chin, so he'll stand in the pocket. He'll bomb away. Trusting his chin can be a problem in some matchups, but his speed will keep him one step ahead of every single heavyweight he will ever fight. He has 0 takedowns in the UFC. He has only been taken down one single time so far, but that's going to be tested soon enough now that everyone knows how insanely dangerous his striking is. He's coming off that first-round knockout over Curtis Blaydes, which made it his 6th first-round knockout in a row. He's taking on Tom Aspinall. Tom could possibly be the most well-rounded heavyweight in the UFC right now. His striking is solid. His wrestling is solid. He's a BJJ black belt. He has excellent hand speed himself, good defense, a diverse attack style where he mixes and kicks well. But he's not just a striker. He has a 100% takedown accuracy, a 100% takedown defense, and he averages almost 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. He is coming off that win over Marcin Tybura, which was after a year away from his knee surgery. And the reason I started this off by saying, I don't know why, the dramatic boom, like I was punching home a point, and it was just a transition to the pick. The reason I started this off by saying it's a tough pick is because this is a tough pick. Sergey was already training to be on this card. He was the backup for the main event. Tom is the short notice replacement. Sergey has insane hand speed, insane power, but that's it. I have literally no clue what he looks like in the second round or how he defends shots with those chicken legs. He has Jacob's legs on Arnold Schwarzenegger's body. It's wild. Anyway, we also don't know what happens if Tom truly gets cracked. He hasn't fought any of the top heavyweight strikers. I think Tom's the better overall fighter here. We just watched him finish a very durable Marcin Tybura. So he is going to be the pick, but I personally think you're nuts if you bet on this fight. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to win very dramatically. Somebody's going to look phenomenal in this fight, and then it's going to be like easy money. People love bragging the next day about stuff that was not worth bragging. We got comments today talking about Nicholas Dalby was the easiest money on this card. Shut up. Shut up with that. This is going to be a similar fight. It is a straight up pick 'em for a reason. Obviously, if you're very confident one of these guys, bet on him. But if you don't think that either one of these guys could get knocked out cold or smoked in the first round, you're out of your mind, no matter what side you're on. I'm on the Tom Aspinall side. Obviously, he can get knocked out cold. If you're on the Sergey Pavlovich side and you think he's that guy, which he might be, he could also be knocked out immediately. He could be taken down instantly, and we could be like, oh, yeah, it turns out his takedown defense absolutely sucks. I'm on the Aspinall side. I think he's proven a little more than Sergey has. Sergey's proven to be the fastest striking heavyweight in the division. Tom has proven to be incredibly well-rounded, and we're going to see what happens with this clash. This is a great co-main event. I'm looking forward to it. 5 rounds. We're not going to need all of those, although that's what everybody said about Derek Lewis. But I think Tom Aspinall's well-roundedness, the ability to work in a takedown if he needs to. He's not Curtis Blaydes. He's not going to think he's the greatest striker of all time. I think he will shoot a takedown. He will work that in. He's averaging almost 4 per fight. Tom Aspinall is going to be the pick. I don't think I'm going to bet on this, even though it is even money and you can convince yourself that's great value. But it's even money for a reason. So Aspinall's the pick. No bet here just yet. Then we have the new main event of the evening. This is a very good main event. And if I didn't know that John Jones versus Stipe Miocic was the main event, and we lost that, I would still think this is a pretty good card, right? If I didn't know that was the original main event, I'd be like, this is a good card. I will watch this card. This is a good card. Jiri Prochazka trying to get his light heavyweight belt back. Alex Pereira trying to be a 2-time division champion, or 2-division champion like he was in Glory Kickboxing. He's one of the most accomplished kickboxers of all time. And if he wins this fight and he becomes a 2-division champion and having only 11 MMA fights, you could argue Alex Pereira is one of the better mixed martial artists we've ever seen. And this is a great fight. We got Jiri Prochazka. As you know, he's coming back after more than a year away. And from what doctors said, this was an actual quote, the worst shoulder injury we've ever seen. I'm calling bullshit on that, by the way. So he's either coming back way too soon, or that narrative of the worst shoulder injury we've ever seen is absolute nonsense. It's been a year. The worst shoulder injury we've ever seen, I feel like would require more than 1 year. This dude was posting pictures, Ivan Drago style workouts in the woods on Instagram a few weeks after surgery. So I'm ignoring that whole worst injury bullshit. I'm ignoring all of it. The rumors, and I don't buy this as well, but the rumors were this guy was juiced to the gills, so they did this to pull him out of the USADA pool so he could. I don't believe any of that crap because it happened after he fought. It's not as if he hadn't fought for it. It's not a Conor McGregor situation. Anyway, back to the breakdown here. Jiri Prochazka is actually a crazy person. He's incredibly fun to watch, incredibly dangerous striker. Pretty much all of his 29 wins are coming by stoppage. He only has 3 fights in the UFC, but 2 of them were spectacular second-round knockouts that earned him Fight of the Night bonuses, and the third was a wild 5th-round comeback to earn the light heavyweight belt. The knock on Jiri has always been how hittable he is. He's hit with almost 6 significant strikes per minute, which is an insanely high number. His chin has held up. He has had no issue standing in the pocket, taking one to give one. His takedown defense is at 68% on paper, but Glover was able to take him down 5 times and rack up 10 minutes of control time. And if you're going to look at Tapology and say, oh, he submitted Glover. Holy crap, he must be a phenomenal grappler. No. Glover beat the brakes off of this guy for 24 minutes. Jiri worked in a scramble. Glover made a mistake. Jiri worked in a scramble, capitalized, got it done. That does show me 2 things, though. 1, Jiri is never out of a fight. And 2, that guy has cardio. That was a long, tough fight, and he was fresh as hell. Taking on Alex Pereira. This guy is a kickboxing beast. Very high-level kickboxer. As I mentioned, 2-division Glory world champion. Glory's like the UFC of kickboxing, right? The creme de la creme of kickboxing. As we know, he beat Israel Adesanya 3 times. 2 in kickboxing, 1 in MMA. He moved up to light heavyweight, and he looks the part. He's a massive 6'4", and he seems to be faster and healthier without having to cut down the middleweight. The clear path to beat him is to take him down. And while he does have a 70% takedown defense, he has been taken down 8 times. He's coming off that close win over Jan Blachowicz, where he controlled the striking, but he did give up more than 7 minutes of control. The easy narrative here, and you're going to hear this from a lot of people, is Alex is a devastating striker and Jiri gets hit a lot. Alex has looked good and has been busy while Jiri has been out for a year with a shoulder injury. And I would pick Jiri here. And I did pick Jiri here. And then I redid all my notes and I flipped my pick. And I'm going to fall into the trap of the easy narrative. At first, I was like, listen, Jiri wins fights. This guy puts together wins. As ugly as they are, as sloppy as they are, as hitted. I thought I was an educated. As hit as he gets hit a lot. And it's concerning because Alex Pereira hits like a freight train. Alex Pereira has one of the best left hooks you'll ever see in your entire life. And Jiri Prochazka, who's getting lit up by Dominic Reyes, could have some very real trouble with Alex Pereira. But, as I mentioned, Jiri wins fights. Yeah, he was getting lit up in a lot of those fights. And then what happened? He somehow pulled it off. He somehow got it done. Jiri's obviously going to be the more well-rounded fighter. But he is very hittable. This is such a tricky fight to break down. I had Jiri picked on my spreadsheet. I look at a spreadsheet. I had him picked on my spreadsheet. I had the notes. I picked Jiri, low confidence. I am going to flip to Alex. I am just going to go with the easy narrative. It does. Sometimes there's no reason to overcomplicate something. Yes, Jiri finds ways to win. Yes, it's incredible what this guy has done in his short UFC tenure. But Alex Pereira is a world-class kickboxer. A world-class kickboxer. And Jiri Prochazka gets hit like crazy. I'm going to go with Alex Pereira here. He is going to be the pick. Guys, follow all of our socials. The links are all in the description. Costs you nothing to support us. It does cost a couple of dollars for a premium membership. It's only $10 a month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member to unlock everything, including the detailed data, metrics, and analytics, including the line movement tracker, which is going to give you opening odds, current odds, win probability, and line movement for every single fight, including all of the other analysts. It's not just me. It's not just Jacob. We've got the MMA Minute. He has 30,000 followers on TikToks where he's giving picks, bets, and insight. You're going to get Running Mouth MMA. There's 3 of them giving you picks, bets, and insight. You're going to get Artem, who's giving you picks, bets, and insight, not only for UFC, but for Bellator, PFL, LFA, all of the regional shows, and you're going to get the Pick Doctor. The Pick Doctor is a nuclear physicist that has developed an AI that picks fights based solely off of data. Guys, become a premium member. It's only $10 a month at WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top.